The matchup that I'm covering in this week's video is highly requested by a lot of fans as people want to know the outcome between Kisuke Urahara versus Satoru Gojo. I think a serious discussion needs to be had when it comes to power scaling between different verses. Bleach characters are often downplayed within power scaling conversations, and this is because not a lot of people truly understand how powerful these characters are. Via this video, we'll be dispelling some misconceptions by pitting Kisuke Urahara against Satoru Gojo. Both of these characters are mentor figures to the protagonists of their respective stories. Both Gojo and Urahara have that cool, mysterious vibe and a laid-back persona. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand and appreciate why this matchup isn't even close. So get ready as I'll be breaking down how the former captain of the 12th Division fares against the Six Eyes prodigy. As with all of these videos, let's set the stage by establishing some ground rules. The perfect battlefield where these two characters would fight in would be an empty dimension, which doesn't give either of the characters a reason to hold back, so there's no innocent bystanders to worry about or property damage concerns. In terms of the version of the characters who will be battling, when it comes to Gojo, we'll be using his absolute peak version from the Shinjuku Showdown arc. So this is him before his unfortunate battle against Sukuna. So he has full access to Limitless, the Six Eyes firing on all cylinders, and that cocky attitude at maximum output. In terms of Kisuke Urahara, this will be the version of the character that had fought against Askin Naklava during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. So this does mean that he has full access to his Bankai, his full scientific arsenal, as well as his centuries of combat experience to work with. Now here is the thing, neither of the characters will have prep time. This is important because giving Kisuke Urahara prep time is like giving a nuclear physicist unlimited uranium and telling him to go wild. Urahara is a man who has spent decades planning the downfall of Aizen, and he doesn't need a head start against Gojo. And even if Gojo had prep time, I don't think it would help him much. We know that he had prep time against Sukuna and still lost. The win conditions for this fight are straightforward. It's either death, knockout, or complete incapacitation. Now I know that the energy systems of JJK and Bleach are different, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to allow both Reishi and Cursed energy systems to interact with each other, because otherwise what's the point? Both Gojo and Urahara will have access to their full arsenal of abilities, there's no restrictions, and we're about to see what happens when the master of reconstructing reality battles against the wielder of infinity. Let's now have a basic overview of each of the characters, beginning with Kisuke Urahara. Beneath that humble candy store owner facade, you'll find that he is the former captain of the 12th Division and the founder of the Soul Society's Research and Development Institute. Even Sasuke Aizen had admitted that Urahara was intellectually superior to him. Kisuke isn't your typical shonen mentor who shows up to give cryptic advice and he disappears. Urahara is a unique combination of the intellect of a scientist with the strategic mind of a war commander. All too often, we've seen him come to the aid of characters as he invents convenient devices, as Urahara was credited with figuring out how to restore Ichigo's Shinigami powers after he had lost them during his battle against Aizen. Also during the second Quincy invasion, Urahara figured out how to disrupt the Quincy's ability to steal Bankai. This was done via the Shadow Infiltration pills, which helped to negate the effects of the Quincy's medallions. Urahara inventing the Hokyoku should tell you everything that you need to know. This was a device that reads the hearts of those around it, and it warps reality to grant their deepest desires. The Hokyoku reshapes existence based upon the subconscious will of others. Then he looked at this god tier artifact and went, nah, it's too dangerous, and he hid it inside of Rukia's Gigai. Feats like this appear to be ordinary for Urahara as he developed a Kido specifically designed to seal Aizen after he had become immortal thanks to the Hokyoku. Now think about this for a second. He created a prison for someone who is unable to die. During his fight with Askin, he analyzed a completely unknown poison-based ability that manipulated the very concept of lethal dosage, and he was even able to create a vaccine for it mid-combat, while he was being actively poisoned by Askin. When it comes to speed, Urahara had kept pace with Yoruichi Shihoin, who has been nicknamed the Flash Goddess, and she considered him to be a worthy sparring partner. We're talking about someone who moves so fast that other speed specialized captains look like they are standing still in comparison to her. Conservative estimates of Urahara's speed put him at sub-relativistic combat speeds. In terms of his signature abilities, we have his Zanpakuto Benihime. His Shikai is a Swiss army knife of abilities. His blood mist shields casually tank mountain destroying attacks, his energy nets are able to bind and explode his opponents, and his destructive red crescent shaped energy blasts which can slice through dimensions. Urahara is able to analyze the energy of his opponent's attack mid-flight, and he can create perfect counters just by simply restructuring the energy of his opponent. This perfectly leads into his Bankai Kanonberaki Benihime Aratame. This is where things get really ridiculous. Urahara's Bankai doesn't just attack you in a conventional sense, it reaches out and it restructures anything that it touches at a fundamental level. He was able to split open Askin's arm and then reveal that his power can restructure anything that his Bankai touches. Even when Urahara's eyes were destroyed, he was able to reconstruct them, and the fabric of space itself is just another medium for him to manipulate. His Bankai has a range of effectiveness, but this isn't an issue because it can also restructure the distance between himself and his opponent through his restructuring ability, thus allowing him to close in on his target without much effort. With his Bankai, Urahara is effectively playing God as he can restructure the building blocks of reality. Urahara was able to create a portal through Askin's impenetrable poison barrier, meaning that space, matter, and energy, all of it becomes Urahara's plaything when he activates Bankai. On the opposite end, we have Satoru Gojo, who is the man who shifted the balance of the world just by being born. He is the wielder of the Six Eyes and the user of the Limitless, who had broken a 400-year dry spell for his clan. Within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo isn't just strong, he is the upper ceiling that everyone else is measured against. Within his verse, Gojo is monstrous. Those who are opposed to Gojo were so terrified of him that they had to resort to sealing him because killing him was literally impossible. This is an individual who had taken the title of the strongest and he had turned it into his entire personality, and he was able to back up his showboasting with his actions. The Shibuya incident alone demonstrates Gojo's insanity. Here he killed approximately 1,000 transfigured humans within 299 seconds while actively avoiding civilian casualties. His unsealing caused earthquakes that were felt across multiple prefectures, and during his fight against Sukuna, he tanked Malevolent Shrine. This is an attack that turns everything within a 200-meter radius into dust. You have to remember he did this while at the same time healing fast enough to stay functional. Then you have his 200% Hollow Purple that was amplified by Utahime, which carved through nearly 4 kilometers of Shinjuku. This wasn't just the area being destroyed, it was literally erased out of existence in a straight line. He had fought Sukuna empowered by 20 fingers to a standstill, and he was winning until space itself became his enemy. In terms of speed, Gojo's confirmed to be faster than Naobito Zenin, who uses projection sorcery to move at 24 frames per second. With scaling from various fights and generous calculations, we're looking at Mach 3 to 9 combat speed for top tier Jujutsu Kaisen characters. This means that Gojo is faster than Mach 3, and some arguments do place him to be at hypersonic to even potentially faster than light speed range. Even if he doesn't reach that level of faster than the speed of light, his Six Eyes makes up for this, as it allows him to track and respond to attacks that his body shouldn't be able to dodge. Gojo's ability, the Limitless, is conceptually one of the most broken defensive powers in anime and manga. By bringing the mathematical concept of infinity into reality, Gojo creates infinite space between himself and any threat. This isn't a barrier, it's him making the universe solve an impossible equation where you need infinite speed to travel a finite distance. His power blue manipulates space by creating impossible negative distance, forcing reality to collapse inward to fill the void. Then red reverses this, creating violent repulsion, which is at double the output power of blue. When Gojo smashes together both of these impossibilities of red and blue, we have purple, an imaginary mass that deletes whatever it touches from existence. Then we have Gojo's Six Eyes that he was born with that provide him with perception beyond perception. This is atomic levels of cursed energy manipulation. Gojo's technique cost is reduced to near 0 Gojo cursed energy thanks to the Six Eyes, and his ability to process information at superhuman speeds is also credited to the Six Eyes. When Gojo combines the Six Eyes with Unlimited Void, he is able to force feed his opponents with infinite information to paralyze them. Gojo's entire moveset is designed to allow him to be untouchable and unstoppable. Now that we have a basic understanding of each of the characters, let's compare their abilities. Jujutsu Kaisen fans need to brace themselves because both of these characters manipulate reality, but they're playing in different leagues. Cursed Energy is impressive as it manipulates space, energy, and concepts within physical reality, but Reiatsu affects the soul directly. It transcends physical space entirely, and when Aizen flexed his spiritual pressure, abilities had just stopped working because his soul was just too powerful for them. This isn't hacks, it's a basic mechanic of how Bleach powers interact. Gojo's Infinity divides physical space infinitely. It's an incredible concept and it has flawless execution, but it works best against physical attacks. But what happens when your opponent has insane levels of spiritual pressure which can crush souls directly? When attacks like Urahara's are able to cut through dimensions, when they can restructure the very concept of space that Gojo's technique relies on. Urahara's arsenal of abilities makes Gojo's look specialized. When Gojo has variations on spatial manipulation, Urahara has reality reconstruction via his Bankai, as well as contingency plans that he can come up with on the fly that are layered so deep that he's probably forgotten some of them. The gap in the versatility between Urahara and Gojo is so deep that Gojo mastered one incredibly powerful concept, yes, but Urahara has proven countless times that he has mastered dozens of concepts, and he is even able to come up with new ones when he gets bored. Now let's have a look at each of their physical abilities. When it comes to strength, this is quite painful to compare. Gojo's physical strikes enhanced with blue can send special grade curses flying through buildings, and he can create small earthquakes. This is really impressive, especially for the JJK verse and for most anime verses. But when it comes to Urahara, he has shown that he can casually block strikes from the strongest Espada Yami, and his casual punches have been calculated to be at multi-city block level. And this is without Urahara even activating his Shikai. Urahara can also restrain captain level opponents with one hand while having philosophical discussions with them. In the early chapters of Bleach, during his training with Ichigo, we see Urahara's strikes possessed enough power to create large-scale craters, and he was able to launch Ichigo several meters through solid rock. In terms of speed, things do get embarrassing here, as Gojo's speed, even with the most generous of calculations, caps him at around Mach 9, which is around 11,100 kilometers per hour. Gojo was able to keep up with Sukuna, he dodged surprise attacks, and he moved faster than elite sorcerers were able to track. Within the JJK verse, this is incredibly impressive and even god tier. When it comes to Urahara, he was swapping hands with Askin after multiple power-ups. The same Askin who could react to and fight Yoruichi, who moves at sub-relativistic speeds as a baseline. We're talking about combat speeds that make lightning look frozen. The gap is potentially 1,000 times or even more, as Urahara could circle Gojo multiple times before he finishes a hand sign. You have to remember, Urahara is considered to be a Shumpo master. He is so fast that an opponent does not notice when he replaces himself with a portable Gigai for misdirection. He had used this tactic even against Aizen in chapter 402. In terms of physical technique, both combatants are considered to be martial arts masters, but the context does matter here. Gojo learned from the best sorcerers of his era, and he perfected his style over maybe 15 years of serious combat. Urahara, on the other hand, was raised within the noble Shihoin household. He's been perfecting combat for centuries. He has no doubt fought in several critical battles over the years, and one of his closest allies is the greatest hand-to-hand fighter in the Soul Society, and I don't have any doubt that his training with Yoruichi will have given him tons of experience in physical combat. Now, looking at both of their intelligence and ability to strategize, you could say that this matchup is like a chess grandmaster battling against someone who is just learning the rules of the game. Gojo's tactical brilliance is real. He adapts domain conditions on the fly. He's able to figure out enemy techniques quickly, and he makes split-second decisions that usually turn the tide of a battle. He's the smartest fighter in Jujutsu Kaisen by a significant margin. But it's unfortunate because Urahara operates on a different plane of intelligence entirely. Not only is he a master master inventor, he's also one of the greatest scientists in the history of the Soul Society. He's able to come up with contingency plans in the middle of active combat. He deduced the mechanics of reality warping poison while being actively poisoned, and he created a perfect counter. Urahara is also able to use his Bankai to surgically modify himself and to dissect his enemies. And he also has a detailed understanding of the holification process, and he has determined how to stabilize a victim of holification, as seen with the Vizards and even Masaki Kurosaki. These are insane feats within the Bleachverse that nobody else was capable of accomplishing. Despite his goofy nature, Urahara is very insightful and strategic. When Askin thought that he had Urahara cornered in an inescapable poison dimension, Urahara had already analyzed the barrier of Askin, and he created an antidote or vaccine for it, and he set up Grimmjow for the perfect killing blow, all while pretending to be on the defensive. This is a level of intelligence and intuition that is truly unmatched. So even if he doesn't have prep time, he's able to make very quick decisions in the midst of battle, and he can make accurate decisions which will be in his favor. This isn't to say that I'm downplaying Gojo and his incredible feats. I mean, look back at his battle against Jogo, Hanami, Chozo, and Mahito. He was able to handle all of these multiple fights at the same time, coming up with specific strategies for each one, battling at insane speeds, protecting civilians at the same time, and keeping property damage to a minimum, and all the while he was dodging attacks from 4 opponents. While this is really impressive, it pales in comparison to the scope of Urahara's intelligence. Now let's have a look at their durability and stamina. Gojo proved that he could survive Malevolent Shrine, as these were thousands of space-cutting slashes which turned city blocks to dust, and he kept fighting while being carved up, healing fast enough to avoid death, and it's the kind of durability that makes him nearly unkillable within his verse. While rarely being in dangerous situations, Gojo has proven himself to be very resilient when he needs to be. When Toji stabbed him through the chest when he had just deactivated his infinity, Gojo showed very little pain. Along with his cursed energy reinforcement, he was able to avoid any further damage, and even after he was impaled in the throat and then stabbed several times through his body, not only was Gojo able to survive, he used his life and death experience in order to understand the nature of reverse curse technique, as he became even more powerful than he ever was. Urahara has been well conditioned for battle thanks to his days of training within the Onitsukido. He is able to take large amounts of punishment, and his durability had caused the Vizard Hiyori to be cautious about how she would hit him if she did not want to hurt herself instead. Urahara has been seen to be impaled by reality warping attacks. He was not only poisoned, but he had his organs targeted specifically by Askin's death-dealing ability, but despite this he kept fighting while creating counters, as both combatants appear to have insane levels of durability. When it comes to stamina, Gojo is able to fight for hours, and he can restore his burnt out techniques 5 times before risking permanent damage to himself, and he can maintain multiple techniques at the same time. The efficiency of his 6 eyes means that he effectively has unlimited cursed energy for practical purposes. Urahara has equally impressive stamina feats, with him fighting within Askin's dimension of poison while being poisoned on multiple conceptual levels. Despite this, he was still able to activate his Bankai, which drains up massive energy reserves, and I do have to emphasize that against the death dealing, Urahara appeared to be exhausted from the poisonous power of the Quincy, but he was still able to move about with considerable agility, which had even surprised the Quincy. We need to now look at each of their ultimate abilities. When it comes to Satoru Gojo, 200% Hollow Purple is his nuclear option. This results in kilometers of damage within a straight line as space itself is deleted. It's the kind of attack that redefines what a ultimate move means within Jujutsu Kaisen. 200% Hollow Purple traveled a distance from Shibuya to Shinjuku, covering almost 4 kilometers, as it absolutely destroyed everything in its path. In contrast, we have Urahara's Bankai Kanon Biraki Benihime Aratame. It's quite a versatile ability, as Urahara can use it for support or even offense. Offensively, he is able to split open whatever is within his area of effect. This includes living or inanimate objects. His ability to cut is similar to that of a surgeon dissecting his patient. To use his Bankai in a supportive manner, then he can restructure something by stitching it back together. This can be used used as a form of healing, such as when Urahara healed his eyes using this power. And he can also enhance living matter to an optimal working state, like when he restructured his arm to acquire greater strength in order to overpower Askin. This incredibly versatile ultimate move allows Urahara to cut any objects into parts and then use stitches to sew these pieces back together. This can even work on the environment around him, as he can create a path for others to move through barriers or even obstacles. It's truly insane when your ultimate ability is a Bankai that enables you to edit reality itself. Now, we do have to talk about each of these weaknesses. Gojo's limitations have been clearly defined within the series. He has 5 domain expansions before brain damage becomes permanent for him, and infinity can be bypassed by domain amplification or space cutting attacks. He needs hand signs for his stronger techniques, and any techniques that he has burnt out with using, he needs conscious healing to restore himself so that he can use them again. Urahara's only shown limitation is the range of his Bankai, which he bypasses by restructuring space in order to extend it. His weakness is essentially it needs to be in the same dimension as you, and that's not really a weakness, it's a technicality. Before wrapping up and giving my final verdict on this matchup, let's have a look at some X-Factor points that could turn the tide of the fight. Urahara's greatest strength is turning his enemies' advantages into weaknesses. Gojo's untouchability would fascinate Urahara right up until he figures out 17 ways to bypass it, and he implements the most humiliating method. So Gojo's 6 eyes, which are able to see everything, become a liability for him when Urahara reconstructs what they are allowed to perceive. Another issue is Gojo's confidence, which is both his strength and weakness. Gojo's used to being untouchable. Gojo's superiority complex becomes a vulnerability, especially against someone like Urahara, who specializes in overcoming the impossible and breaking through the invincible. So let's get the final verdict. The fight opens up with both Urahara and Gojo testing each other out. Gojo's pretty confident and cocky, he has infinity active, maybe he launches some blue enhanced strikes to gauge the reaction of Urahara, but in this early point of the fight, Urahara's already analyzing the energy patterns, the spatial distortions, and the mathematics behind Gojo's infinity. Their first exchange would reveal the difference in their speed, as Gojo throws a punch that should be unavoidable, but Urahara's already behind him, examining how blue warps space as Gojo spins, fires red, but Urahara's red mist shield manifests as he tanks it effortlessly while he takes notes on Gojo. Gojo figures out that he's being studied, so he goes for the domain expansion, and this is where Gojo fans think that he wins. The unlimited void activates, infinite information floods into the battlefield, but then Urahara's Bankai activates at the same time. Canon Biraki Benihime Aratame doesn't care about the sure hit effect of the domain. It reaches out and it restructures Gojo's domain boundary into origami. Or Urahara could even restructure Gojo's brain to make him forget that he casted the domain. That endless stream of information could also be restructured into easy to understand brownie recipes, and the options for Urahara are truly endless. Even if we assume that unlimited void lands on Urahara, and this is being very generous given the difference in their speed, Urahara's mind processes reality warping poison mechanics mid-combat. Urahara could probably absorb all of that infinite information without even being phased, as it would be an interesting dataset for him to analyze. This battle would not end with a climactic final attack, but with Urahara having dismantled every advantage that Gojo possesses. His infinity, well, Urahara can restructure or bypass it thanks to his Bankai or his space-cutting Kido. His limitless techniques can be analyzed and countered by Urahara, and in terms of the 6 eyes, Urahara's Bankai could once again restructure them in order to convince Gojo that he is seeing illusions or nothing at all, depending on Urahara's mood. In most cases, this fight ends with Gojo realizing that he's not just been outmatched, he's been turned into a research project, as Urahara doesn't just win, he wins while taking notes for a book on how to beat Gojo that he can sell at his shop later. Under specific conditions, like Gojo somehow landing unlimited void before Urahara can react, despite their massive speed difference, and if somehow this works perfectly, despite Urahara's feats of mental processing, then there is about a 10 to 15% chance of Gojo winning this fight. But this requires everything going perfectly right for Gojo, and everything going wrong for Urahara. And I think that this is reflected perfectly within within the poll that I ran on my community tab on the channel. So I asked who would win Urahara versus Gojo. We've had thousands of votes, with 13% of people thinking Gojo would win, while 87% think that Urahara would win. And this perfectly aligns with the analysis that I've provided within the video. So we have reached the point where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Let me know all of your thoughts about this insane matchup. I love making these videos, even if the outcome of the fight is obvious. I think that these videos serve a purpose to help people to understand that Bleach characters are not to be underestimated. Bleach is always downplayed within power scaling discussions, and hopefully videos like this will help to debunk a lot of the misconceptions about how powerful Bleach characters really are. So yeah, if there's anything that I've forgotten to mention, let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments, and do leave your suggestions for what other matchups you'd want to see me analyze. Lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.